Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Political Focus here on Channel 6 TV, Central Kentucky Television. Glad you could join us tonight. We've got a big day coming up here in a few weeks. It's called November 4th. It's called Election Day. And we hope you'll be well informed and well educated, because that's our job. That's our job, to make sure you know who the candidates are, you know what the issues are, and you know what's coming up, so you can make an informed decision. Good evening, everybody. I'm Kenny Fogle. Glad you could be with me, and glad we can have today. We've got Terry Wayne Cantrell. You can go by what, TW?
TW.
TW.
Please,
and welcome to the show, first of all.
Thank you.
Well, Terry, tell us, or TW, tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are, and a little bit about TW Cantrell.
Well, I was brought up in the military. My dad was in the Army. I moved all over and went to University of Alabama finally. First my family to go to college, but I was in federal law enforcement about 30 years, postal inspector, and retired in '99, and ended up in Bardstown by way of some family ties, but I've been here about 14 years, and I love it here.
Roll Tide, I guess.
Roll Tide.
Well, for some people that's good, some not. I mean, but again, so what brand? You say you're coming to Bardstown. That's one thing about it. So obviously you like the area because you stayed. So there's some during that 14 years, maybe in the last year or so, somewhere along the lines, you've decided you want to run for city council. So
yes.
What's the motivation behind that?
Well, I've never been able to run for office, being a federal employee, but I try to stay involved in my community, my church, and some issues, like way back when I first moved here, we had a noise ordinance, and I live on North 3rd Street, and I knew right off it wasn't going to be enforceable, you know. And I've had a motorcycle; it's no big issue. But there's other laws and issues like the truck route that's not being enforced, and my primary thing is my utility bill, my water bill. It's more than my electric bill. There's something wrong, you know. And I have talked to a number of people on my street and throughout town. They have the same problem. They're out of whack. So, you know, I decided, well, I need to do something. And I don't know, it just came to me that I guess I was looking at the paper or TV or something. It said there's a deadline for registering. I said, well, why not? I'll give it a shot. Either, you know, if you can't fight City Hall, go out there and join them or do something.
Work it from the inside.
Right, work from the inside, yeah.
Well, you got a road dot going on right in front of your house too, I guess, right along in there too. So
yeah.
How's that working out?
Well, it is better. It did, but it's compressing the traffic, but there's still a lot of speeding. And there's a lot of, I mean, all those 18-wheelers don't need to come through town, but their GPS is telling them the shortest route. They need to go on down to the next exit, because the majority of it's going to Walmart anyway, from the West Coast, not to mention any countries where it's coming from, but it's coming from the West Coast on trucks. And even some of our local distilleries and things like that, if they don't have a local delivery on that street, they need to come on down to the next exit and go around.
Okay.
And I think that'll improve, but we don't need any new laws on that. We've got them. We just need to enforce them.
Well, you already got into my next question pretty much. You're talking about a water bill and noise pollution and the traffic. But my next question is, what are the main issues that somebody needs to be looking at right now that are really burning in Bardstown? Other than obviously.
Well, I've been involved with my daughter before, about 10 years ago, with a small business, and I when I moved to the historic district, I went down and talked to them. I like the fact that we keep it historic, and we want to keep it looking that way. We don't want a purple house in one corner and something else on the other. But at that time, we had a little antique store down where the Liberty Tax is now. It took us 6 to 8 weeks to get a sign approved. Now, I can appreciate that fact, but even today, there are people that have real issues with their signs downtown. We need to just relax that a little bit and use some common sense. That's what we need on the water bill. Everything's common sense. I mean, a lady up the street, getting back to the water thing, a few houses up, she has a big house. She's an older lady, and she rents some rooms occasionally. But she had an 80,000-gallon water bill one month. Well, she hired a plumber, and everything checked out. $800-something for water. She goes down there. Obviously, there's nothing wrong, but maybe the meter's wrong. They knocked $300 off, still had to pay it. I had a 31,000-gallon. I know good and well, I put all the plumbing in my house. I know there's no leak. And then a month later, here we come with new water meters. So I don't know. I guess the thing, we just need some common sense. Somebody down there to take each and say, not say, well, you only get one pass on a leak. No, well, let's look at that individual situation. Because there's people that can't afford that. I can't afford that.
That's a lot of money. Well, I know one of the things I usually try to check with people. It's no right or wrong answer to this, but I know we've had a lot of rancor on the city council over the last few years. And some people think that's good or bad. You know, I don't know if it's good to have a lot of arguing and fussing on there, or is it good that they have a team that's working together?
Well, I think there's got to be a debate. I've attended some meetings just to observe over the years, and there's usually some good debate, but like the last one I went to, there was an initiative to have a raise in property tax. Well, mayor and some others might have argued that, well, that's only $12 if you've got a $100,000 house. Well, most of the council debated it and said, no, that's a lot of money to some people. And they voted it down. And the common sense answer is, well, do you really need to tax the individual people? Not with the world's bourbon industry here that costs $6 a gallon just to store it.
Yeah.
You know, and there's 20 million gallons in every one of those warehouses. So, you know, some common sense, but it's good to have that debate. It's good to have. I think they've got a fairly good mix, but I think there's too much wanting to spend more and more, just like our federal government. And we don't need to put it on the back of the homeowners and the taxpayers. There's plenty of business here.
I know one thing they've talked about on the city council is some of them are complaining that they don't get a lot of time to view something. It's brought up one week and expected to vote on the next week. I mean, and some of them think they need a lot more time to study a $40-some million budget than they do just to make a spur of the moment judgment. Yeah,
I agree. That's just kind of like our federal health care law. They said, look, we'll vote it and we'll read it later. That was a big mistake. Need to really study it, because once you get that in there, and then there's a tendency, my experience in working in the government, federal government, at the end of that year, when you got it left over, they're saying, we got to spend it or lose it. And if we go under budget, we're not going to be able to ask for more next time. So you get into this spending thing, and we can't do that. I'm very conservative about spending. And I think if our city and local government, our federal government would try to live within their budget, we'd be a lot better off.
Okay, well, and again, you know, one of the things, what do you see as a perfect city councilman? You see somebody that's out there trying to do, there's always that age-old question. Do you go in and represent what the people want, or do you go in and use your own intellect and basically say, this is the way I think things should be done? I mean, how do you mix the two?
Yeah. I think you need to use your intellect and your past experience. I think if you've lived life and owned homes and lived all over for the last 50 years and experienced rules and regulations and rates, and using some common sense from that wisdom, which you can't get in college. I've got a bunch of kids. They all college smart, but they haven't lived life yet.
Yeah,
you know,
I understand.
And they still call me because they know I have. You got to walk in the shoes first, you know. So I would see somebody with some experience, but also someone that's lived at different places and has something to compare with. But really, when it comes down to it, it's just common sense, you know.
Do you see looking from the outside might give you an advantage, or is that a disadvantage for you? You know, just being here. I mean, you've been here several years, but you're getting a perspective from that somebody that's maybe born and raised here wouldn't have. It's a whole different perspective for you.
Oh yeah, I definitely do. I come from a fairly big family, and I'm the only one that really left the area. Most of them are still down where they were born. And my dad was in the Army, and you know, at the time it was, you think, well, that's bad, you're going to have to move around, but you know, I moved in the middle of my senior year. I came back from Germany by myself, but you know, on a ship for 9 days. But you know, there's experience, and then when you're into the home buying and living in Atlanta and even small town, Charleston, West Virginia is the capital, but still it's only 40-something thousand people. But you do interact with different utilities and different councils, educational systems, and I think you get an advantage by moving around and observing and learning.
We've lived in small towns and big towns, obviously,
right.
And we're growing. I mean, there's no question about it. Bardstown is growing. Is that something we need to control more, or is that something we need to embrace, just growing, or how should we handle this?
Well, I think any growth needs to be careful. I've been involved in the past, even though I worked for the government. I was through marriage involved in a private business, and if you tend to go too fast and go out on a limb, you know, that's about half small businesses go bankrupt because of that. So you got to go slow and observe, and really look at things. So back to your other question, you do need time to really study something. But you know, I don't know the situation why we're charged 1.4 times for a gallon of sewer water than fresh water. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't be that way. You know, I talked to a man. He said, "Well, I ran last time," and he said, "You know, it doesn't really matter why it does that. There's a priority. Why did they do that? Mm-hmm. I can, pardon me, but I could live without TV or cable or internet, but I can't live without water."
That's true.
And I'll tell you, we're one of the greenest states in the country. We got a lot of water here.
Yeah.
It's bluegrass. We don't have any shortage really, but there's some problem in priorities when we're charging more for the water treatment. And I don't need to go down there and see the plant. There's a priority, no matter if it's modern or whatever. You got to take your priorities. Mm-hmm. And this guy that ran for, he said, "Well, they got to get the money somewhere, so they raise that." Well, let them raise something else. You know, we can even get HD TV out of the air now, right?
Yeah.
Again, like we used to back in my day. We put antennas on the roof, and
which, by the way, Channel 6 is on antenna.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so, you know, there's just really a common sense thing here. Why does it cost that? Who set that rate? Why does it have to be that way? Mm-hmm. You know, I water a garden, I wash my car. That doesn't go in the sewer.
Yeah.
And I wish somebody explained that. I got my bill right here. It shows my electric was less than my water last month.
Yeah. Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
You got a mission there.
Yeah, and I've got refrigerators and TVs.
Yeah.
You can't run them on anything but electric right now.
I understand. Well, like I said, TW, we do appreciate you coming in here, but I'm going to give you one last closing statement here. If you want to just tell people
Sure.
why they want to vote for you. That's basically why would anybody want to vote for TW Cantrell right now?
Well, I hate to keep repeating it, but this is my thing. I want common sense, and I want to change, and I want to do something that's going to help the people. I think business is doing great, and we like good business, and I've been here involved on and off with business for almost 14 years, and I think this is going to be the best year Bardstown's had in a long time. But we can't forget about the people that we're really doing this for. Mm-hmm. They live in homes, and they have utilities, and they need those, and they need them at a reasonable rate. Okay. And enforce the laws. We don't need any new laws or new taxes. We just need to use common sense and enforce the laws we've got.
All right, well, TW, we do appreciate you stopping in here today and telling us a bit about yourself and
Thank you.
Giving the voters an opportunity to know who you are and see what they like. So again, it's turned over to you now. Basically, you're listening to all the candidates that we're talking to in the last few weeks, and hopefully you're learning a little bit about the issues and a little bit about the candidates, and we're doing our job. And your job's on the 4th of November, and we encourage you strongly to show up and vote. So from Bardstown City Council, again, TW Cantrell here with us right now, candidate, and we appreciate you tuning in. So for all of us here at Central Kentucky TV, Channel 6, this is Kenny Fogle saying so long for Political Focus. We'll see you next time right here on your hometown, Central Kentucky TV. Take care, everybody.